They said the Empire laughed. Not chuckled, not smirked. Laughed. Deep, guttural, rolling laughter that echoed through the throne halls of Varnock Prime, that trembled across the void on unsecured frequencies, mocking the fledgling species of Sol 3. When a galactic census officially recognized humanity as an emergent non-threat, the Empire's ambassador had publicly toasted to the universe's new comic relief. And we heard them, every word, not because we were listening in, but because they wanted us to hear. It was deliberate, cruel, and utterly, fantastically short-sighted. They underestimated us from the moment we stumbled into FTL. Our ships were clunky, engines noisy, designs crude by galactic standards. But what they didn't see, what no simulation could predict, was what lay behind our eyes. A species born of extinction events, wars, plagues, ice ages, and self-made hellscapes. A species that survived not because it was the strongest, but because it was the most relentlessly stubborn. We weren't supposed to be here, and yet we were. And they laughed. First contact was humiliating. The Empire's delegation arrived in towering crystalline spires that hovered without engines, glowing with exotic energies we couldn't even name yet. We greeted them in patched-together exosuits, clunky translators crackling with latency. Our representative, Admiral Kira Thorne, extended a hand. They offered nothing in return but a projection of our solar system with the words Resource Zone 87C stamped across Earth like a branding iron. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a declaration. But humans remember humiliation. We keep it. We forge it into something sharper than pride. The world governments, fractured as they were, formed the unified Sol Accord within a month. Old enemies sat at the same table. Resources flowed. Research exploded. And Kira didn't just take the insult personally. She made it her mission. Years passed. The Empire ignored us. Good. That gave us time. While they played politics and postured over who controlled what star clusters, we studied. We learned. We reverse-engineered what scraps we could scavenge or steal. Human minds, unbound by millennia of bureaucratic inertia, tore through alien tech like wildfire. We didn't just replicate, we innovated. Faster than light became near-instantaneous wormhole tethering. Energy weapons were scrapped in favor of something nastier. And the singularity field? Well, that became our punchline. The turning point came when Kira authorized Operation Helios. A deep infiltration strike designed to hit the Empire where it would hurt most. Not militarily, but psychologically. The Empire's power rested not only in its armadas, but in its star-forged throne, Kovar Sunday. A system star artificially stabilized, harvested for energy, and woven into their capital's very infrastructure. Kira's plan wasn't to destroy it. No, that would have been too merciful. She wanted to take it, steal the very heart of their empire. Of course, everyone said it was impossible. You can't move a star, not even with a fleet of singularity drives, not even with quantum anchors, and certainly not without the Empire noticing. But humans don't accept impossible as a stopping point. We treat it like a dare. It started with a decoy. A mining colony deep in the Clenari Vale accidentally triggered a radiation burst that mimicked a prototype energy weapon. The Empire sent a fleet to investigate. Meanwhile, 3 human stealth ships slipped into Kovar's system, hiding in the plasma trails of merchant convoys. They released nanospore arrays, microscopic machines designed to phase into the star's corona and begin constructing something new, something unprecedented, a stellar lattice. Weeks passed. The Empire remained oblivious. Arrogance, it turned out, was as blinding as any flare. And then came the day. Human command authorized ignition. The lattice activated. Space-time around Kovar's sun shimmered, twisted, and then collapsed inward, not into destruction, but into redirection. A fold in gravity, an artificial singularity dragging the star not into oblivion, but into a containment field seated light years away. We didn't just move their sun. We teleported it. 100 billion tons of nuclear fire, gone in an instant. One moment, it illuminated their throne world. The next, it was orbiting Saturn, renamed Sol 2, humming like a pet dragon. The Empire didn't laugh after that. Throne worlds plunged into darkness. Shields collapsed. Power grids failed. Fleets scrambled in chaos, commanders shouting over blacked-out comms. And then, from the shadow of the stolen sun, a human ship emerged. Not sleek, not graceful, just angular, practical, and very, very menacing. Kira herself stood at the bridge, hologram flickering into every active display in the Empire. No translator, no diplomacy, just 6 words. You said we were funny. Laugh now. We didn't fire a shot. We didn't need to. The message was louder than any weapon. A civilization that could steal a sun could do anything. We'd risen from the mud of a backwater planet to become cosmic giants. And for the first time in their history, the Empire was afraid. That fear, of course, didn't mean surrender. Empires never bow easily. But a seed was planted. Across 1,000 worlds, species whispered in awe. The humans had taken a sun. What else were we capable of? And that was exactly the question we wanted them to ask. If you thought that was the punchline, just wait. Because Kira, she didn't plan for one sun. She planned for something far darker. And if you're still watching, hit that like and subscribe because Chapter 2 is about to reveal what happens when humanity decides the stars themselves are no longer off-limits. The disappearance of Kovar's sun didn't just darken the throne world. It shattered the illusion of empire invincibility. For thousands of cycles, they had ruled through awe, control, and fear. But now the one thing they thought immutable, the star at the heart of their supremacy, was gone. And it wasn't a natural event. It was taken, not by an enemy armada, not by a black hole, but by a species they had mocked into irrelevance. The shockwave was more political than gravitational. Alliances shifted overnight. Border territories began sending signals to Earth asking for strategic partnerships. In other words, they were scared. But humans? We weren't done. Kira Thorne stood before the Unified Soul Council, her face etched with something deeper than triumph. Her voice was calm, almost quiet, but every word struck like thunder. We stole a sun. Now we ask, how many more do they think are safe? Silence filled the council chamber. Not because anyone doubted her, but because they all realized what she truly meant. Operation Helios was not just a military maneuver. It was proof of concept. And she wasn't suggesting defense. She was declaring escalation. While the Empire scrambled to restore basic infrastructure, we launched Operation Echo Forge. On the surface, it looked like a deep space expedition toward the Carthusian Rift. In reality, it was the opening move in a far more ambitious game. We weren't just going to take stars. We were going to forge our own. Not from hydrogen and helium, but from information and fear. Here's where the story breaks most people's minds. We discovered that stars don't need to be made of matter. They can be made of math. It started when Dr. Raman Singh published a theory that certain quantum feedback loops within an artificial gravity field could simulate the energetic behavior of a stellar body. Basically, a star with no mass, just energy wrapped in equations. Impossible? Probably. Until it wasn't. Within 2 years, the first quantum singularity node blinked into existence above Neptune's orbit. No heat, no light, and yet, it generated enough power to run Earth's entire orbital ring for a decade. We called it Echo 1. Now imagine Echo 100, then Echo 1000. We were no longer stealing stars. We were replacing them. But not just for us. That was Kira's next move. We offered the tech free to anyone who broke from the Empire. It was a masterstroke. Rebellion didn't come in fire and war. It came in the form of planets quietly switching off their dependency. Within 5 cycles, nearly 11% of the Empire's resource worlds had disconnected from the grid. Not because we made them, but because we gave them a choice. The Empire tried to strike back. They launched a fleet toward Echo 3, hoping to capture or destroy the node. We let them approach. We let them scan it. We even let them fire. But Echo 3 was never real. Not physically. It was a projected singularity a spatial illusion embedded in a dimension 2 degrees off baseline. They hit nothing, but the return energy from their own weapons bounced back, distorted, amplified, and redirected. Their flagship evaporated in an instant. The rest fled, and the whole galaxy watched it unfold live. At this point, the Empire's high command made its fatal mistake. They issued a broadcast, classic, arrogant, and filled with fury. Humans, they bellowed, do not belong among the stars. Your place is beneath them. They expected fear. They got memes. Within minutes, the phrase was trending across all networks. Your place is beneath them, overlaid on images of human boots stepping across galactic maps. It became a joke, an anthem, a promise. Because humans? We thrive when we're underestimated. Kira knew it wouldn't be long before the Empire stopped bluffing and started adapting. So, she made her final move. A strike not of force, but of revelation. She unveiled the solemn key. You need to understand, everything in the galaxy was built around physicality. Ships, shields, weapons. But the solemn key was something else. It wasn't designed to attack. It was designed to erase memories, data, identity. A total info wipe, delivered through entangled particles spread across the Empire's own network. One activation, and a targeted species wouldn't even remember the shape of their own ships. It wasn't genocide. It was reset. Of course, we never used it. Not fully. We didn't have to. We demonstrated it. On one moon. Just one. And overnight, the Empire's strategic command no longer remembered where half their forward bases were. You'd think we'd use that moment to demand surrender. But we didn't. Instead, Kira issued one final transmission. No threats. No orders. Just a question. Imagine what we could do if we weren't angry. That message spread further than any act of violence. It made beings pause. It made rebels rise. And most of all, it made the Empire realize something chilling. Humanity didn't want war. But we were absolutely ready to end one. And if you're still with us, still gripping the edge of your seat, hit like and subscribe, because Chapter 3 is where everything flips. When we stop being the underdogs and become the ones writing the rules of the stars. They used to laugh at us. Not just the Empire, but the whole damn galaxy. In the ancient diplomatic records stored in Kira Thorne's private vault, there's a quote from a Vraxi noble during our first galactic introduction. Humans are loud, impulsive, short-lived. They will flare like sparks in vacuum and vanish just as quickly. But sparks catch, and vacuum doesn't stop a wildfire. By the time we took their sun, it wasn't about proving our worth anymore. It was about redefining what power meant in the cosmos. And in that redefining, we became something terrifying, unpredictable. But the final turning point didn't come in a battle. It came when we were invited, yes, invited, to the Empire's inner chamber on Alvareth. It was supposed to be a trap. Everyone knew it. Kira knew it. The Empire wouldn't surrender without showing teeth. The galaxy held its breath. The human flagship Resolute Dawn crossed into Empire space under full broadcast, its hull gleaming with solar latticework, powered not by fusion, but by quantum memory. The ship remembered energy. That alone sent a message. We have surpassed physics. What's next? Kira disembarked alone. No armor, no escort, just a single projection drone trailing behind her, streaming her every step to over 17 billion sentient beings watching in real time. The chamber was lined with the Empire's elite, claws twitching, eyes narrowed, antennae rippling with restrained violence. The Empress herself towered at the far end, silver-scaled, eight-limbed, voice like rolling magma. "You presume much, human," she hissed. Kira didn't flinch. She let the silence grow until even the drone's audio sensors began picking up the strain of tension in the air. Then she said it. Calm, flat, devastating. "We presume nothing. We decide." Gasps. Movement. Weapons twitching toward readiness. The Empress rose. "You bring war." Kira raised a single finger. "No, we bring choice." And then the drone activated the archive. Not a weapon, a record. Every atrocity, every extermination order, Every colony scorched by the empire. Every lie, every cover-up, unfiltered, raw, projected into every known system. It wasn't propaganda. It was history, preserved and dropped like a hammer. And in the silence that followed, she delivered the final blow. You ruled through fear, through control. We don't want your empire. We want to replace the need for one. A pause, and then step down or be stepped over. You could have heard a particle shift. But what no one expected came next. Not fire, not death, but defection. 3 high commanders dropped their allegiance tags. 7 noble houses pledged neutrality. One world, live on broadcast, tore down its empire banners and raised a human flag. Not because we conquered it, but because we gave them perspective. The Empress didn't die. She didn't flee. She simply sat, as if the weight of truth finally collapsed the throne beneath her. Kira turned and walked away. And just like that, the empire fell. Not with explosions, not with blood, but with a whisper loud enough to eclipse a star. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. Former enemies reached out for alliances. Refugees from dying systems found shelter in human space, drawn not by power, but by promise. We formed the Accord of Free Systems, open membership, no compulsory rule, and most critically, every species got a voice. Even the ones who once laughed at us. Especially them. Echo Forges became standard across allied territories. Artificial stars bloomed like flowers across the void, each one named after the lost, the brave, the forgotten. We didn't erase history. We honored it. Kira Thorne retired not long after. She refused a title, refused a statue. But when she disappeared into the Lagrange silence, every beacon in the galaxy pulsed in synchrony. A signal, a thank you. And Earth? Earth became something more than a birthplace. It became legend. The world that dared. The world that rose. The world that, when mocked by empires and dismissed by gods, reached out. Not with fists, but with fire stolen from their sun. You might think that's the end, but it never is. Because out there, beyond the maps, beyond the last whisper of empire's signal, something watches. Something old, and something hungry. Not amused by humanity, but afraid. And that, perhaps, is the final twist. We weren't the joke. We were the punchline. So if this story sparked something in you, if it made you feel like humanity just might be the wild card the universe never planned for, then don't just scroll away. Like the video. Share it. Subscribe. Because the stars have changed. And we're not done yet. We're just getting started.